Hello all, welcome back to the session day 5 of the workshop. This session is very important from the perspective of patent drafting, that is patent application, how it is drafted, what contents are to be written, and when the document will be considered as a complete document and when we file it at the patent office, intellectual property right or Indian patent office. The content of this session is kept intentionally in a manner that the basics of the specification, basic of the application drafting is grasped, and it can be applicable for almost all the domains and not restricted from any specific or particular domain. So these are the few contents that we wanted to discuss today, and we are going to go into details of each and every point here. If you recall, this is the life cycle of a patent application that we discussed from last couple of sessions now. Now you may note that the first step 101, it is very important because all the other processing of 102, 4, 3, 5, 6 and all those various steps are going to be based on this step number 101. So this file patent application in India. So before filing, this application has to be written. In other words, in our terms in intellectual property right world, this writing a document is referred to as drafting, right? It's a very simple term. So before step 101, there is a back-end work that needs to be done, be it from an IPR attorney or be it from the inventor themselves to write this particular document to be submitted at the patent office. This drafting or writing of the patent application is very crucial, and thus the term we are going to refer throughout the session, it will be referred to as patent drafting or drafting specification. These are interchangeable and alternatively used terms. So what this basically a patent drafting is about, it tries to it actually includes in the specification or the document like what your invention is, what your idea, what your concept is, what problem it is trying to solve, and basically how you are trying to implement or there is a possibility of implementing that invention in future or at the moment. So all these things, all these subject matters are mentioned in that document, and only when these all details are submitted at the patent office, it is referred to as patent application at step 101. Thus, drafting the patent application is really crucial, and it is not, let us say, a cup of tea of each and every one of us. It needs to have a practice, it needs to have a skill, it needs to have an attention to each and every matter that is to be written there. So just because your English is very good does not mean that you would be a good patent drafter. Just because your essay writing skills are very good does not mean that you would be a good patent drafter. It requires a combination of skills which is generally referred to as a technical skill as well as legal skill. So technical skill is required from the perspective of understanding the technical invention, because invention is what it is all about, technology, it is all about the technical details about the invention or a proposed concept, and understanding of that technology really is required when you write this particular patent application. So the first important part of document writing is that you need to have a skill of understanding the technical subject matter or technical details. Second, the remaining important part of this document is to understand the legalities associated with this particular technicalities. So legal knowledge, or at least the knowledge of those legalities which are required to be covered in the patent application or patent drafting, is really required here. So patent draft, the document that we call it as draft, is actually defined in a very simple terms here. Basically, it is a techno-legal document which provides a technical solution to a technical problem by means of a technology. Now here, the term techno-legal and especially the term legal is only visible once in this particular document, in this particular definition. So you would note that this document is 90% technical and only 10% legal. However, when you see from the scope of the legal or law, the 10% itself decides the fate of the 90%. Right? Because ultimately IPR is a field of law, and as per the law, only 10% of your document or 10% of the contents of your document would decide the fate of remaining 90% of the thing. But the major proportion of the document is filled with all technical details, technical information, technical results and all the stuff. Let me reiterate the definition. Now this definition can be molded as per the requirements. For example, if a techno-legal document that provides a technical solution, Okay, this technical solution may be in the form of a new solution or it may be an old solution, but it provides a technical solution to a technical problem. Now this technical problem can be a completely new problem like COVID situation, which is completely new, or it may be an existing problem. For example, any viral disease, right? Any viral flu. So that is an existing problem. So let us refer to as a known or new or old technical problem. So any new or any old technical problem by means of a technology. Now this technology again can be new or can be old. Any technology, new or old, any technical solution, new or old, any technical problem, new or old. But this document should be having these 3 or 4 criterias or requirements. What are those? One is a technical problem, another is a technical solution, and third is a technical proposal, that is a technology. Now what is a patent? Patent draft is the document, but patent is actually a techno-legal document or a legal right or a license that is given for a new or improved technical invention, not necessarily scientific. It is not necessarily required to be scientific, but it needs to have technical invention, and it gives the owner an exclusive right of the invention. This definition of patent we have already seen in the last session, but this is just to give you a glance that though the patent is a term, patent is a license given by the government of India or any particular government or intellectual property office, but this basically gives you a techno-legal document as a kind of document, and then it gives you a right, exclusive right to stop anybody from using, selling, manufacturing and the like. Right? Now, most importantly, when you draft a particular document, this document has to be drafted from certain perception or perspectives. On the top left hand side of this slide, you would see that patent drafting comprises an art, science and law. Art of what? Art of writing. Science because this is all technology, and law because it is all associated with the legalities. So it's a combination of these two things. So any person, any random person cannot do this kind of task of writing the application called as patent draft. I hope this is clear to you what I'm trying to convey. It's an art, it's a requirement of an artisan here. There is a requirement of understanding of a science or technology, and it actually gives you the document once granted gives you a right, a legal right or legal enforceability rights, and thus it is referred to as having perception of a law. So all these three have to be combined to achieve or to obtain this particular document. Right? Now on the below you would see a rectangular box which will show you various things here. We have seen yesterday the prior art, what is prior art, what is invention. We have also seen the in detail about how a prior art is to be identified, what this prior art is required for, different types of prior arts and other things. Similarly, we have also seen inventions, what are the possible types of inventions and what constitutes to form an invention. And the parallel technologies are basically those technologies which are available in the similar domain of the proposal that you are proposing in the patent draft. In other words, this parallel technology or these parallel technologies may be intended to solve a similar problem what you are trying to solve, or these technologies may be inclined towards proposing the similar solution, but the problem that they are solving may be different, right? So these are all referred to as parallel technologies. Now the way these particular technologies are implemented may be same or different. For example, let us take a very example to better understand what we mean by parallel technologies. So if I want to transfer data, data from one mobile phone to other mobile phone, right? If I want to transfer it from one device to other device, there are various ways that are available to transfer the data. One of the mechanisms is via Bluetooth. I have to switch on the Bluetooth of both the phones and then I can transfer the data. Second example is via share it, which is much more faster as compared to the to the Bluetooth. And third is via WhatsApp. It is the fastest one. Let us assume that. Okay. So parallel technologies in this case is transferring of the data is a technology which is actually required or which is actually being performed here, underlying technology. But the purpose of achieving this particular technology or this solution is different. Okay. Problem is same, solution is different. Problem is what? Problem is transferring the data. Solution is different, right? Let's take another very simple example from real-time perspective. If I want to travel from one place to other place, I have various options. The problem here is I want to travel from one place to other place. Solution is what? I can take a bicycle, I can go walking, I can use two-wheeler vehicle, I can use four-wheeler vehicle. If required, I can even fly using an aeroplane, right? So purpose is same, but the way the purpose is achieved is different, right? This is very important to understand. Now why we are discussing all these things, because before you actually take a document for drafting, or before you actually write the patent application, or before you draft, the most important part here to understand is about what are the existing arts that are available in the technology, which is obviously related to the proposed invention of yours. Firstly, most important ingredient for drafting is invention. There has to be an invention. What is the invention? We have seen it in the last couple of sessions. What constitutes to form an invention, right? So any product or process, any new product or process having an industrial applicability and an inventive step. That means it should be technically advanced over the prior art, or economical significance, or both, and should not be obvious to a person skilled in the art. So this is really very important to understand. So whenever you have these three things in a particular invention or in a particular subject matter, such subject matter is referred to as invention. The first ingredient is to have the invention in place. Second important ingredient is to understand what is happening in the nearby areas or nearby technologies. We call it as prior art. What is the latest technology that has come, which is intended to or is similar in line with your invention, with your proposed invention. So these are all things that are considered while as a second ingredient when you want to draft the application. And third, I told you the parallel technologies are also considered during the writing. This document is actually, we are going to see into details of that, but this document is mainly required using those inputs that we just discussed. This document actually is written in various sections, various let us say parts. The first part is title, abstract, background, description, claims, and the drawings, right? We are going to go into details of each and everything, but just to give you a glimpse, this is what constitutes to form a patent draft. Now, most importantly, in the last bottom line, you can see the patent drafter has to think like a businessman and a lawyer and not an inventor. Why? Why is this statement made? Because for inventors, everything is unique. For inventors, their invention is like the baby. Everything is new to them, everything is novel to them. But when a drafter writes the application, he need to ensure that he is focused on the fact that what things are already known in the art, what are the things where he can suggest or indicate that this invention or the inventor can get a better protection or better rights for his invention. And businessman, because from future's perspective, he wants to ensure that this business or this particular invention will actually end up into a product which can be sold in the market, and there should be a better scope when they sell it in the market as well. And most importantly, it needs to be understand that because the life of a patent is for 20 years from the date of filing, the drafter, when he writes the application, he needs to have a future perspective as well. Because tomorrow anything can come up and replace your technology. So your application should be written in such a manner that even the technology changes, you should not, your invention should not be bothered because of that. Let's take a simple example, mobile phones. Your mobile phones are being used from so many years now, but as and when the technology changes, some of the mobile phones does not work for those technologies. For example, some mobile phones supports only 2G, some mobile phones only support 3G, and some mobile phones only support 4G, right? So you need to think from a perspective that if there is an introduction of 10G tomorrow in the market, whether my phone will be supported by those data or not, those requirements or not. And if your answer is no, that means you haven't thought from the future perspective, right? This is why it is really important that your drafter should have a scope from a businessman's perspective as well as from the law perspective, and he should think about the drafting, about the invention from the future's perspective and not from today's perspective only. Okay, moving on, these are the contents of that particular document referred to as draft. Now just for clarity and to be on the same page, to reiterate, this draft, once it is ready from your side or from your attorney's side, This draft gets filed at the patent office, and this draft, once filed at the patent office, is referred to as a patent application. Okay. Now moving on, we will be using the patent draft or patent application simultaneously. Ultimately, the difference is only that once it is filed, it is referred to as patent application. Otherwise, the contents doesn't change. The most important part here is like this document is drafted in, let us say, chunks or in blocks. These blocks may be related or maybe not related, but they are always directed towards the same invention. I hope what I'm trying to say is clear. That means, for example, if my draft has title and field of invention, as you're seeing the first and second number of your in your slide, title of the invention may not be related to the field of invention. It may or may not. I'm just saying it may or may not. But they have to be directed towards your invention. They cannot be completely different invention. For example, my invention is about a mobile phone and I'm writing my field of invention about an antibiotic. It will never work. Such things are not allowed. Okay. So now we are going to go into details of each and every part of this particular document, that is whatever contents that you are seeing. But just to give you a grasp or introduction, the contents of the patent application or the draft includes the title of the invention, field of your invention, background information of the invention that includes the prior art references, a brief summary of the invention, a brief description of the invention, a detailed description of the invention, claims, an abstract of the disclosure, and the drawings. So these are the specific and unique contents that are required in your patent application. Otherwise, you will be missing something. Otherwise, you will be considered as missing some of the points in the information. And even the patent office, when they review your application, if they feel that at step 106 and 107, if they feel that some of the points in this particular document are missing, firstly, they will not be able to appreciate or understand your invention. And second, most important part is that they will not be able to ascertain what you are trying to claim or what you are trying to propose in your invention. Is this clear? Great. Now, most importantly, you would have noted that these contents may be similarly seen in your IEEE research paper also. In your IEEE paper also, you have an abstract, you have drawings, you have introduction, that is background, you have those a summary or the proposal, what you call it as, and then the detailed description and working thereof. Absolutely correct. Yes, they are almost on a similar line. The only problem or the only difference is that your IEEE paper, it has to be written in a very generalized way, whereas patent has to be more specific towards the technology, more specific towards your invention's perspective. The only point of difference between the IEEE paper and this particular patent application is the claims, the last third part of this particular PPT. Abstracts will never have claim, but the IEEE papers will never have claims, but the patent application needs to always have the claims, without which the patent application is never accepted or never considered eligible to get a patent granted for. Right? Contents, again, from IEEE papers perspective, the contents may be same in the patent application, but the claims are completely different. They are not at all there in any IEEE paper. Let us try to go into details of each and everything. Okay. Title of the invention. As the name indicates, this title needs to be more, let us say, it has to be given like an identifier to a patent application. But in IEEE paper, there is no restriction on what abstract is to be given or how or what terms are to be used. In contrast to this, when you actually draft a application or a patent application, the title of the invention is very important, because based on title, you would be able to try to at least get a glimpse of your invention, what direction it is pointed out for. Yesterday also, if you recall, when we saw that when the during the searching, when the results are obtained, how to identify whether your invention is relevant or not, whether your search is relevant or not, you always try to read the abstract, and only when you feel the abstract is really important from or overlapping with your invention, you try to read the application, and thus this gives you the importance of the title. The title of the invention should be descriptive and clearly indicative of what the invention is about, but it cannot be elaborative into an extent that it extends 15 words in itself. 15 words is the mandate according to the Indian Patent Office, and most of the patent offices also try to expect the titles to be clear and crisp, but directed towards the important subject matter of your invention, that is gist of your invention in short, right? And you have to most importantly write it in 15 words if you want to file the patent application in India. In United States, it is expected that the title, there is no limit on the words, but it is expected that a better title is a title which is finished in 2 lines or 2 statements maximum, right? Most importantly, some of the pointers that one needs to follow when a title is written, it need not to be fancy. It need not to be using a flattery or very attractive terms. For example, a beautiful invention to come up with something. No, there is no need of beautifulness. Invention is about a technology. It needs to show the beautifulness by its virtue of implementation and not just by the word, flattery words. An improved machine, right? An efficient system, right? One point solution. No, these cannot be used as a title, terms in the title. They have to be more specific. For example, if I want to transfer a data from one mobile phone to other mobile phone, the title according to the patents I would suggest is that system and method, or device and method for transferring data. That's it. Or data transfer method for one or more devices. I haven't used terms like an efficient data transfer mechanism or a system, a beautiful system and method for achieving enhanced data transfer. No, I have never used that. They will be objected. So this is a thumb rule for you. Whenever you are writing a title, it need not to be flattery, it need not to be artistic, it need not to be kind of showing the quality or quantity of your invention, right? It needs to be precise, it needs to be concise, it needs to be specific and directed towards the uniqueness or specific features of your invention, what you propose to claim. Field of invention, as the name indicates, this field of invention is basically a kind of a statement which actually helps the reader to understand what technology or what domain is this invention related to. So for example, let's take another example, again the same example of mobile phone. So whenever I write a field of invention, I will write in the field of invention section that this invention relates to mobile phone, or this invention relates to transfer of data from mobile phone to other mobile phone. This is the field of invention. Now, when you write a field of invention, it is expected that you write the broadest possible technology which is applicable for your invention. And then in the second statement, you can write what is the specific technology that you intend to use. For example, in the mobile phone example, the more broadest technology would be the present invention relates to mobile phones. This is the broadest technology. And then in the next statement, I can narrow it down and say that more particularly, the present invention relates to transfer mechanisms of data from one mobile phone to another mobile phone. This is very simple. It's just that people tend to make it complex to read and complex to understand, just to showcase that how great this particular drafting skill is. But patent office or any of the government agencies do not expect it to be great. They just want to understand your invention. The more simple you write, the more better it is for them to understand your invention. Is this clear? Great. So title of the invention and field of invention are the first two sequential, let us say, content of the patent application. Okay, this is very important to understand. And just for clarity, these points what we are just seeing on the screen, they are always in a sequential manner. So it doesn't happen like that you have written title of the invention at the last, and then field of invention somewhere in the between, and then you wrote then you showed your drawing somewhere in the first few presentations and first few pages of the specification. No, it is never expected in that manner. This sequence is a concrete sequence, and this sequence is a let us say, it needs to be followed to expect that the patent office understands your invention, right? Now, moving on, most importantly, background of the invention. As the name indicates, you are creating a background. So it's like a story writing, you need to give some background about your invention when you want to explain your invention in terms of what problem it is solving, what solution it is proposing. So you need to actually show in the background, write it in the background, what is the reason that you plan or you have come up with this particular invention or patent application. This is very important to understand, because if your background is not clear that why have you given the efforts to file a patent application, it will be difficult for the examiners and the readers to understand why have you come up with the proposed invention, what is the importance of this invention. Thus, it is always expected that your background should be briefly describing the context of the invention. It should focus on the problems that you are trying to solve. It should focus on what problems and how they are affecting the real-time applications in the market, how it is affecting the life of people, how it is affecting the users of a particular product, how it is affecting a particular group or community or a particular region or a particular area or animals, to which actually creates a huge problem for them. So all those problems needs to be discussed here. Prior art, if you recall in the yesterday's session, the prior art search, specifically the novelty or inventive search, we obtain some results at the end of that search activity. So those search results can also be included in this particular section here in the background, wherein you try to show people in many countries or people till date have tried to solve such problem by using the solutions which are given in these documents, and you can cite those documents 1 2 3 4 whichever you want, just to showcase that it is not something that you have only been trying to solve. There are people who are trying to solve it, but our proposal or your invention is somewhat different as compared to what they have proposed in this. Is this clear? So this is very important. So whenever you write a background, the most important focus should be on the on making the reader understand what this invention is about, why you felt a dire need to come up with this particular invention, and what are the existing particular solutions to this particular problem if anybody tries to solve, right? Most importantly, it should not be a kind of elaborative structure. A brief or an objective, contents can also work. You should never try to target any specific company, any specific product, any specific community, any specific person, anything like that in the background. It should be avoided. There is no mandate about it, but you should try to avoid. So for example, if you see that there is a problem with the Apple phone and you are trying to solve that problem, it is not recommended that you insult or you disrespect the particular phone, but in very gentle manner you can clearly write that many mobile phones, including the Apple phone, this model, are having these issues, and thus in order to attempt to solve these issues, we are come up with a solution. So let's not be very specific, let's not be target oriented, let's not be harsh in criticizing any of the existing knowledge. So thus these are some of the pointers which would help to write a good background. The background may be about around 1 to 3 pages long, but I specifically prefer the more you write, the more problems you would create to yourself to in the examination, because examiner would try to go into details of problem, and for if you go and elaborate each and every aspect of a problem, he may find a very close references to your invention which is not recommended. And thus it is really important that it should be not more than 4 or 5 paragraphs, but these paragraphs should not be incomplete. These paragraphs should clearly indicate what the invention is, and what this purpose of the invention is, and what problems it is trying to solve in the existing literature. So this is how basically a background of the invention has to be there, right? So apart from that, in the background, most important part, as I told you, prior art has to be included. Most important thing is that when you write a prior art, you don't have to explain the prior art in such a greater detail that everything in the background is covered only in the prior art, right? You can just give an introduction, for example, by citing the title, by citing the the application number. The same background as you write in the IEEE research paper can also be written in this particular thing, right? This is very important to understand.